So first, we're going to start off talking about what a niche is not, because there are a lot of opinions out there about niches. I'm sure you've read various or heard various people talk about a niche. And usually when people talk about it, they predominantly talk about niching down. And so the whole way, the language that's used about it, it really starts to feel like you're trying to pigeonhole yourself or put yourself in a box. And then you've got to stay in that box. And that's the exact opposite of how I and how we are presenting niching, because we want it to be a living, breathing thing. So niching is not something that you find. It's not narrowing your interests or subject area or your audience. So it's not about this contraction. It's not something that controls your career development. It's not a palatable perspective for a large number of people. So in other words, you have thoughts, feelings, ideas, experiences, desires, curiosities that you're kind of keeping under wraps because you're not sure how the audience is going to respond to them. We're not doing that. And it's not a way to outwit your competition. It's not a soapbox or a one-way relationship. So again, you are doing the work for a particular audience or for a particular client, and you're trying to mold yourself to how they want the work done or who you are. You're going to find clients that fit who you are. That's our goal. And niche is also something not that that you mention when somebody asks, what's your niche? Like it's not a label or a title that you feel disconnected from. What niching is an intersection of your interests, your skills, and your values. So think about that for a minute. The intersection of your interests, your skills, and your values. And again, back to this idea of wanting to build a sustainable niche. What we want to do is position it so that it can grow, it can evolve, it can shift, it can change, it can morph. And so we find that the most sustainable way to do that is make sure that you are including what's important to you, what you're curious about, what your values are, and what your skills are. And so even when I say that, it can sound like, oh, wow, that's kind of a lot to bring into the equation. But I think you'll find that it happens quite naturally. It is the conversation that you want to be having. That's a part of it. It's your personal take on a topic area. It's a unique perspective that you have. It's a perspective that you have gleaned from your experience. It might be personal experience, but it dovetails with the medical industry. I've had so many students that have had experiences in their childhood or sometime in their life that were so formative and so important to them that it actually drove their desire. For instance, one woman I worked with, her mother had cancer when she was a child, and she grew up wanting to cure cancer. And she now works as a scientist who works on curing cancer. It's a really living, embodied goal and value that she developed early on and committed her life to. So there will be parts of that in your life, that things that are streaming into who you are that are really important to you. And so I want to encourage you not to just set that aside, but to let that be included in various areas of your life, and let that be a part of what your niche is to you. Because again, your niche is like your ecology. Okay. And so as we grow and change throughout life, our ecology changes as well. So we want to think of it as something living and breathing, something that you would choose, that you create, and that you have a deep alignment with. It's part of the way of life that you have, your vision for the world, and it brings you joy, and it gives you those opportunities to experience flow. If you know what flow is, you know that when you're doing some of your favorite things, the time is passing and you're completely involved in it, and you don't know what time is passing, not the minutes, So it's something that allows you to also express yourself genuinely and authentically, and it allows you to spark meaningful conversations with others. It's something that if you had your choice, that's what you would be talking about. That's what you would be learning about. And as we know, there's no subject on the planet that we know everything about. And our knowledge is always changing and shifting and evolving. So the important thing is not, do I know everything about this topic? It's, am I engaged deeply with this topic? Is it meaningful for me? And do I just love to learn about another study or another case? For instance, the idea now that perhaps the brain actually has a biome of its own. I mean, who'd have thunk it, right? But it makes perfect sense. I mean, there's so many things that are changing about our understanding of who we are as human beings and medicine and science. And it's always changing. So we want the niche to be able to be fluid, flexible, responsive, and a way of connecting with your ideal clients. So as I was saying, in ecology, a niche is the match between a species and its specific environmental conditions. That's how I want you to think of niche. A sort of symbiosis. How do you reach that symbiosis with your interests, your work, who you are, your life, your experiences? And just as an organism will thrive in its preferred environment, a niche for a freelance medical writer is your ideal positioning. So I want you to think about that just for a minute and see if you can sort of take that in. And if it challenges your ways of understanding niche, and then sort of sense into the idea of what would it feel like to feel ideally positioned, but not from a purely conceptual point of view, from a more embodied point of view, from an emotional, spiritual, mental, physical, energetic point of view, that you feel this is really where I want to be. This is what I want to be writing about, talking about, learning about, and sharing with others. Why it's smart to have a niche. It makes marketing your business easy because you're not trying to make something up. It's actually emerging from within you. And then you're representing that in your graphics, in your on your website, on all your materials, and in who you are. They resonate, they align. You always have a lens through which to talk about the value that your business and services provide. When it's embodied, it's not a reach. It's not something where you feel like, oh, maybe I don't know enough about this particular area, but yet I'm passionate about it. I'm interested. I'm excited. What other resources can you bring to that situation in order to make that a viable opportunity? It connects better with your ideal clients when you have a niche, and again, not a narrowed down niche. We're not niching down. We're not excluding. We're not narrowing. We're not diminishing ourselves. We're actually opening up ourselves and allowing ourselves to thrive in a way that we understand that there's a large part of the world and business and our work and who we are in our lives that is unknown. And that's where the limitless possibility lies, in the unknown. So if we're all going to pretend as if we know everything about a particular subject and we're only going to stick to that, then we're going to get into the situation where we're just continually repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating. And it's dull. It's dull for people who are curious and intelligent and creative and expressive and want to do things to help the world and change the world. So people are looking for somebody who is engaged at that level. They're looking for expertise. They're not looking for a novice or somebody who's trying to kick in the door or get through the door. So people are going to hire people. Our society has changed a great deal from a time when it was really about towing the company line, staying in your place, staying in your job, staying in your position, and just going through the same thing over and over and over again. That's the antithesis of being a freelance medical writer or being an entrepreneur, especially in this world as it is right now. So allow yourself to be yourself, I guess is what I would say. And once you do that and you feel secure in that, there's also a security in charging a premium for what it is that you do, because people are going to get the sense that this is something you're passionate about, something that you are curious about, something that you have your finger on the pulse of, and they will rely on you for that.